Meeting starts at 9 o'clock. It's in the flyer. You can hear me? Thanks, everyone. I got the message. Professor Islam, you are now presenter. Just to let you know, that, can you hear me? Can you please speak so that I can hear?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Professor Islam, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam. Good. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Doing fine. Thank you. Same here.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been communicating for a while, but I have not
No,
seen you in
not
person.
an issue.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm waiting for Professor Ali also. Let me
Okay.
see. Let me check my email. That he has everything. No, he didn't send an email, so he should have everything. So just to let you know that, this is going to be recorded, and that so that I will post it in the YouTube for the some of those who couldn't join today. Do you have any slides to share or anything like that?
No, I was going to just
Okay,
have an
that's
interactive
fine.
discussion. So you'll be in English
Okay,
or
great.
Bengali? Do you want a mix or English is fine?
English is fine, I guess.
Okay.
Because I saw that in the LinkedIn posts. So after that, when I looked at the attendees, I saw some of the registration. So they may not actually speak Bengali.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. So waiting for Dr. Ali.
Correct.
He's my co-presenter, so I hope he shows up.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah, we have known each other for almost 40 years. Yeah, he was 3 years.
Great.
3 years. He was 3 years my junior at Goet.
Okay.
Last time I saw him was in March in Arizona. We had a department head association meeting, and he was there.
Okay. Okay.
So we have annual meeting in March for ECE Department Head Association.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I guess last year you met with one of my colleagues, Dimitrios Peroulis.
Yeah.
Right.
Is he still the chair or head?
He is now the SVP because he left
okay.
the chair position. So he looks after the Purdue online education as well as the industrial relationship. Yeah. The reason that I know because so he asked, he and I actually co-authored something for the newsletter, that I know about the Congress of all the ECE chairs, EEE, ECS, and ECE chairs. So he and I wrote something about the semiconductor workforce development and what Purdue has done and what potentially we can do.
Yeah, I think I had a long chat with him in New Orleans 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I think I saw him again in New Mexico last year. And this year, it was not in March. I think I saw him a year ago.
Okay.
I don't think he was there in last March in Tucson.
Yeah, because he was transitioning. So there was an interim chair. So Milind Kulkarni is now the chair.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll probably see him in Northern. Yeah, go ahead.
So Professor Islam, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you and we'll get you started. Meanwhile, I'm going to contact with Professor Ali just to make sure that he is on, he can join us, because there are already the audience are here, and then we are going to open the the Q&A.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I
it's an
had his cell
interactive chat
phone.
session.
I think I have his cell phone number, but my cell phone is not with me. Do you want me to call
Okay.
him? Or
I
that's
would,
okay.
yeah, I think we can go ahead and get
Okay.
started.
Okay.
Okay. Hey,
Okay.
yeah, no problem. Okay, so welcome everyone. So I'm Muhammad Mustafa Hussain. I actually reach out to all of you time to time. So this is one of our events, the panel discussions that we have discussed for quite some time, and this is actually on something which is very important, specifically for our junior colleagues. It's on the Tenuring with flying colors. So with us today, we do already have Professor Said Kamrul Islam. So he is the chair of Electrical and Computer Engineering, University of Missouri. And if I'm not wrong, please correct me. You graduated from BUET in 1984, somewhere there.
1983.
83. Okay.
Yeah.
And and his area of research is high-speed electronics, semiconductor devices, analog and mixed signal circuits. Of course, with a lot of bio-orientation. And we are expecting Professor Ali to join us at any moment. When he joins us, I will introduce him before he talks. So the way that we have organized today is that both of our panelists. So they are going to basically share their perspectives, their experiences with us, 10 minutes each. And then I'm going to actually open this up for the Q&A session. So a couple of the housekeeping stuffs is that please keep yourself muted during the time when they are going to talk. So that's number one. Number two, please post your questions in the chat box, or there is also a Q&A. So I'm gonna check both of them, and obviously that you have the reaction button, you have the the hand raise button, but for the consistency, that we will let the speakers share uninterrupted their perspectives. I can see Professor Muhammad Ali has just joined us, so hold on a second. So Professor Ali is also now a presenter. Welcome, Professor Ali. Yes. Hi, how are you? I guess you're muted, most probably.
Not right now.
Okay, you're now fine. We can hear you.
You don't have
Okay, so
voice.
thank you.
Hello, Muhammad Dari. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Okay, so Professor Ali, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us. I just finished an intro about Professor Ali. I'm sorry, Professor Islam. I'm going to introduce you to our audience. So Professor Muhammad Ali is the Department Chair of Electrical Engineering of University of South Carolina. And he graduated from BUET in 1987. I'm just I saw it in your profile. And his area of research is conformal and reconfigurable antenna, as well as wireless power transfer and anything related to the antenna and that technology. So again, Professor Islam is going to share his perspective for 10 minutes, followed by Professor Ali is going to share his perspective for 10 minutes. And meanwhile, you're going to send us the questions, and then we are going to open it for the Q&A. We are recording this session so that we can post it the later on in our YouTube site, so that who couldn't join it or who would like to actually rehearse it again, so they will be able to have watch it again. So having said that, so again, welcome both of you, and Professor Islam, you can please go ahead and start.
Thank you, Professor Hussain, for the opportunity to speak with prospective tenured faculty from all over the US. I started my academic career exactly 30 years ago. And when I first took my faculty job in Jacksonville, Florida, my department chair gave me a book. The book, the title was Tenure Journey. Of course, I read the book few times. It was a nice book, but it was not very useful. So what I found out to be more useful was the faculty handbook and the tenure and promotion guideline. And my discussion with the department chair, my mentor, I tried to understand the institutional culture and expectations. So then 5 years later, I was tenured, and then I moved to University of Tennessee again on tenure track for 2 years. And then again, I got tenured at University of Tennessee. So, and then obviously 6 years ago, I moved to University of Missouri as the department chair. And again, I was tenured, but this time tenure process was much more different. So all three universities I have served, you know that the tenure process in its core is very similar. What is different is the institutional expectation, the culture, and the procedures are different. And so I would say that it's very hard for me to say each university what it takes to get tenure, but we can to discuss in general what is the core principle of tenure, which I found out to be very similar in various institutions. So I am the chair of the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science in Missouri, and we have faculty both in ECE and CS. And having gone through their tenure process, I would say again, I validated my first statement that they are very similar in core. So, what is I will suggest everyone, and during our discussion, I will be happy to answer any question. I suggest everyone to be familiarized with the university that you are working on, and you have, if you don't have a mentor, ask your department chair if there is a mentor can be assigned. In Missouri and also in Tennessee, every tenure track faculty member is free to choose a mentor. And we actually here in Missouri, we encourage to take more than one mentor. And some of the departments here in Missouri also have a committee which helps the tenure track faculty going through the tenure process. And the mentoring process is extremely important because it gives an idea about what needs to be done and what are the successful cases of tenure in this institution and what are the unsuccessful cases and what are the reasons behind it. So those are the ones then that are very important for someone to be familiar with. Department chair has a role, or department head, depending on the institution, has a role in this tenure process. And in my department, I have like 6 or 7 tenure track faculty, and I meet with them every month and going over their for half an hour, to going over their progress, their expectations, their problems, and so on. And so we found out that this process is very helpful in the faculty's progress towards the tenure process. So having said that, I will just now turn it over to Professor Ali, and then we will be, answering questions from you. You can ask me any questions you feel like you need to know. With our experience, we can try to answer some of your questions, maybe most of your questions. But again, I said that it's very difficult for us to say exactly what it needs to be done to get tenure with flying colors. But we'll give you some ideas based on our experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Hussain. Thank you very much for it. My journey in probably a little bit different than I started after 4 years or almost at the
Professor Ali, your volume is actually sometimes completely faded away.
Yeah, I have difficulty, hearing you. So
maybe I'll use the headphone.
Yeah, please take your time.
Is it better?
yeah.
Yeah, Just keep talking. We will let you know.
Okay, so I was saying that I started at the University of South Carolina years ago, and in 2007 I got and then had visitor professors places like Wright Patterson. I also spent a couple of years. So
Uh,
can you hear me now?
it is still inconsistent.
Yeah, it's breaking. Maybe your microphone is the problem.
So my mic is on. Maybe I need to speak louder.
Yeah, why not? All
That's
of the
the only
above.
thing I could do now, I guess.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I think about the tenure process. I agree with Professor Islam that uh, having some like a good mentor is helpful. I was fortunate to have at least a few mentors when I started my journey. One of them was actually from mechanical engineering, and he, being from a different department, brought different perspective. And because he's from a different department, he didn't have the, I guess the political thing within the department that happens many times. So that was helpful. He was able to share the successful cases as well as the unsuccessful cases that Dr. Islam was mentioning. It's quite important to know. And for the tenure track faculty, I would say that knowing the culture, and many times uh, when you get hired, you are given a tenure and promotion criteria, like a document, which could be at the department level. Some places have it at the college level or school level. Then becoming familiar with the criteria, like what are the expectations down the road, 2 years from the position, 5 years from the position, etc., is very helpful. And in general, I guess I'll add that the most important things I would think more for most institutions would be scholarship, meaning research, and how do you do the research? Because you have to have the ability to continue doing the research. So striving for funding wherever it is appropriate and being able to publish, having students. I think it depends on, it probably would vary from institution to institution. Some institution and departments may have more weight on something than the others. So I think becoming familiar with the culture is quite important. And teaching is also high quality teaching is also important. Service probably at the junior rank maybe not so important, but sometimes folks can become too busy in the professional society and survey. That might take a lot of time. So I think I would just stop there and then see if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ali. Thank you, Professor Islam. We will be actually so there are different ways. So this is interactive. Okay. So we learn as we go. I think please go ahead. You can raise your hand. So we are going to give you the mic. So that's one. You can also post your question in the chat box as well as in the Q&A. So I just wanted to actually share Professor Akbar from Ohio State University. So he basically actually concurred with both of you, so he said that, as you pointed out correctly, the best is to follow the department PNT guidelines, since it may vary from institution to the institution. So let me see if Professor Akbar would like to actually add something more or not. Just hold on a second, please. Professor Akbar, I think you can actually talk if you would like to share.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's basically, as I said in my statement, that follow the guideline of your department PNT documentation, and as already mentioned, that there are three components: teaching, research and scholarship, and service. And depending on the institution or the department, for example, in my department, scholarship is valued a little bit more than teaching and service. So if I go in priority order, scholarship would come number one, then teaching would be number two, and service would be number three. And particularly for junior faculty member, service is not, they don't want to see you overdoing the service part of your activities. So mostly focus on scholarship and teaching.
Thank you. Okay, so go ahead, please raise your hand, ask your questions. It's interactive. So, okay, Rashid, right? Rashid, hold on a second, okay? Rashid, you have camera and mic both. Just please unmute yourself.
Okay. I think my microphone is working, but the video camera is not working. So thank you so much, okay. Dr. Ali and Dr. Islam. So you talked about institutional cultures and the guidelines by the institution. So if there are inconsistencies in there, how should we actually know and proceed from there? Like if the guidelines are not consistent, what is written are not followed.
Can I go ahead? Okay. Well, we like to follow the guidelines that are written, and we as an administrator, and obviously sometimes the guidelines may not be followed exactly like you mentioned. So in this case, in our university, at least we have a appeal process. So after every round of tenure process, tenure deliberation in the department or in the college, the candidate has an option or to appeal the decision. And this appeal process is very useful because the inconsistency, like you mentioned, those are actually addressed in the appeal process. But before you even go up for tenure, this is why I said that you study the past cases and find out if those cases were why they were successful or why they are not successful. Is best place to discuss this thing with your mentors, and then you can find out what are the real reason behind this individual's success or failure. So the inconsistency is there sometimes, but we as an administrator, we like to follow the guideline as much as possible. Does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I guess I could add maybe a little bit that, people are people, right? So, even when you seek extra reference letters and you send the criteria to them, and you specifically request the external referees to focus on certain things, they will write the letter the way that they actually want. So, and then when the unit voters look at a file, they are actually instructed to follow the criteria, but sometimes, people might write a ballot with a justification that, may go in a tangent, and they might not really approach the problem as it should be approached. But then there are other individuals that look at the whole thing, like the department chair, then there is the dean, the provost, and other folks who look at the whole thing. So obviously, the aggregate effect should be good and fair, or as fair as it can be. So I think as long as somebody really does good work and tries to stay engaged, produces, writes papers, high quality articles, supervises students, teaches well, I don't think there is anything to worry really. That's my personal feeling. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Dr. Ali, is that the research has two components. One is the scholarship, the other one is scholarship or funding. So look at both of those things. And if you do well in those, and if you do decent in teaching, service, like Dr. Ali said, is the least important for us. But we encourage our junior faculty to be reviewers of various journal or papers and be part of the conferences, which most people are. So the service is easy to satisfy, but the research component is the most important one. And you also graduate students. If you research on universities, we look for PhD graduation. So if you have done those things, then no matter how much other people try to stop you, they can't stop you. So that's my opinion.
Can I add something to the discussion as well?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So with respect to the following the guidelines, and different institution may have different mechanism to ensure that, for example, in our case, we have a person called POD, Procedure Oversight Designee, who is supposed to, make sure proper guidelines are being followed. And if it's not followed, or if there's a break somewhere, it comes up and it's discussed and it's fixed. So as already mentioned, don't worry about that. Focus on your actual work, like your scholarship and publication and funding and supporting PhD students in particular, and try to teach as best as you can, and try to do the service, departmental service, professional society services, and that should take care of it.
Thank you, Professor Akbar. Okay, so other questions, please. Raise your hand or post your questions in the chat box, Q&A, wherever. Okay, I'm going to unmute you, Ramin. Okay, you should have mic and camera both. Please unmute yourself. Ramin, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
I think he needs to unmute, looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So the question is maybe very basic, that as a very fresh tenure track faculty, how to get funding? And another question is that how many people lost the tenure track from your experience? What's the percentage?
Okay. Mohammed Ali, go ahead, please. Yeah.
No, you go.
So the first question, I will answer this later. The second question is that my 30 years of experience, I have seen few people who did not get tenure, went through the process and were denied. But most people actually left those who did not get tenure or not about to get tenure, they left the organization. So it's very difficult to know precisely if they had stayed, had, if they had stayed, if they would have received the tenure or not. But few cases that I'm talking about, some of those cases, their research were very poor in terms of funding. Some cases, their publication and PhD graduations, those were not up to their departmental average or standard. So they actually saw the writing on the wall and decided to choose other profession. So your first question was, I believe you are talking about, trying to remember what was your first question.
How to get funding as a junior faculty.
Oh, okay. We encourage all the junior faculty to start writing proposals, obviously, first of all. So the effort will have to be made to submit proposals. In the beginning, you may submit several proposals, may not get funded, but this is something that we consider in our annual evaluation. How many proposals have you written, or how much your shared credit on those proposals are? And the idea is that if you write proposals, sooner or later, you will be getting funding. We have some junior faculty who first couple of years were completely unsuccessful in getting funding. But in their third year, they started showing the results. So the funding is basically a process. So if you submit a proposal and if it doesn't get funded, you get some feedback and you try to improve your proposal based on that. We also encourage our faculty to team up with others. It could be faculty who are senior faculty or faculty in other departments to write interdisciplinary proposals. So teamwork sometimes helps in junior faculty getting funding. A lot of the junior faculty, their first funding is obtained through the teamwork with other people. So the fresh faculty, you have to start getting ready to write proposals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the fact is that junior faculty members, when you are hired, normally your teaching load is low, at least in engineering, you are given reduced teaching load. So the expectation is that, and you don't have a lot of students to begin with, because with startup money, probably like 1 or 2 students you would start your program. Although if you are an experimentalist, you might need some time to develop your lab, etc. But bulk of your time should be used to write proposals. A lot of proposals have to be written. And couple of tips I can give would be, if you can, although the money is limited, go to conferences and, and connect with people, talk to people, make yourself visible, because some of those folks will actually be reviewing your proposals. So, to make yourself known by going and presenting your work is helpful. And then also reach out to program officers and show interest to serve on panels if it is NSF, for example. That is also helpful, because then you see how the thing actually is done. So some of these efforts would be helpful. But bottom line is you have to write a lot of proposals, different types of proposals, as PI, as co-PI, as senior personnel. It really doesn't matter, because that's how you learn how to write proposals. Thank you.
And I may add one more thing, that some of our junior faculty actually make trips to Washington, D.C. to meet with the program managers from that startup. This is from that startup. Sometimes the department also chips in. So we pay half of their travel cost, and sometimes the college pays half of the travel cost. So sometimes the travel is entirely free for the faculty. But they go to Washington, D.C. and meet with the program managers, also in NSF, also in other agencies like DARPA and Department of Energy.
Thank you very much.
So maybe I can say one more sentence, that I served 2 years. So I would say one thing: just bother the program officers. I was there 2 years and I was bothered every day by a lot of people. And it is the job of the program officer to serve the country and take phone calls and, meet on Zoom and, read people's summaries and proposals, So just, you need to be, don't hesitate, just bother people. Thank you.
Thank you again. Okay, so next question, please. Again, raise your hand, chat box, Q&A, all are open. You see, this is a good opportunity to actually oh, of course. Washir, I'm going to actually unmute you, okay? Hold on a second, please. Okay, your mic is allowed, your camera is allowed, so please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much for this session. The question I have is, what are the obvious red flags when like the committee is meeting and like that the young faculties should always remember?
Okay, I think it's every institution is different, but I know in our institution we have an annual review. So the junior faculty from their first year have to make a presentation to the P&T committee, and they will get plenty of feedback. So the red flag is basically when you are not producing your research in terms of publications, you are not really able to graduate. In our case, it's PhD student we mostly care about. But there, in the beginning of your career, it's not really a red flag. It's just the roadblock that you have to overcome. So you have to discuss these problems that you encounter with your mentor and maybe department chair to find a solution on how to address those things. So the research, as I said, as Raleigh said, that we have to we look for publications, we look for funding. Those are the two critical areas in research. We also look for your PhD student that you have recruited and how they are progressing through their process in the PhD program, and do they have opportunity to graduate before you go up for tenure. So all of those things combined. So I don't know whether I address your question.
No, I think you did. Thank you.
Professor Ali, would you like to add anything?
I don't really know what is meant by red flag because, when young assistant professors are hired, there is quite a bit of tolerance from the department and the college because it's a tremendous investment from the institution to see that this effort pays off, because at least in engineering, there is significant amount of startup and etc. So nobody really wants this person to fail. So 1 year is, very little expectation. As Dr. Islam said, you submit, for our case, it's a file that the faculty member submits, and then the file is reviewed by the department's tenured members and the chair, and feedback is normally given. After 2 years, then there is a little bit of a stronger review, and if the funding effort is good or there is significant number of proposals submitted, etc., then these are not red flags. But if there are tremendous lack of proposal submission, I would say that could be a red flag, because if somebody, or there is a lack of publications or even submitted papers. I can remember one individual, he was spending a lot of time saying that he was building his lab, etc. But then at the end of the day, there is expectation that one's trajectory will be evaluated based on the products that they generate. And the products are publications, funding, PhD graduation, high quality teaching, right? So if somebody's taking unreasonable amount of time just to build their lab, that could be a red flag. I assume there could be other red flags as well, depending on the institution. But that's something that I can think of.
In our institution, we have a 3-year program, a 3-year cumulative review of the faculty members dossier after 3 years. And that is usually we find out whether someone is making good progress. And like Dr. Ali said, there are cases where people are not writing proposals. So the comments that were made by the P&T committee were reflecting what you can consider red flag, that this person is not writing proposals. And if you don't play, you don't win. It's like lottery. So if you don't play or if you don't write proposals, you are not getting funded. And the other problem that sometimes people get into issue with their grad students and get into some tremendously nasty situation with the graduate students. And we encourage our faculty to avoid this type of situation so that you don't get into this type of unintended situation where you're fighting with your own students. That can sometimes be detrimental to your tenure process because you recruited the graduate student, you like to graduate them. But in the process, if you get into some conflict, you may lose the student. And then you are starting from scratch. So anyway, so this is something that we always encourage our faculty to pay attention to the relationship they have with their colleagues, with their graduate students.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other questions, please? You can raise your hand. Okay, Ramim, again, I think, okay, you have mic and camera both, so you just need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. So from your experience, do you have some suggestions for like first 30 days, first 90 days, 6 months, something like that we should follow as a new tenure position?
Well, first 30 days is too short. So I would say that first 30 days or first 90 days, you like to be familiarize yourself with the organization that you are serving. Find out what are the strengths and weaknesses of the department, what are the expectations. So in my case, I would meet with the new faculty in the first 30 days as a regular meeting where we'll go over the promotion and tenure procedures and expectations that be laid out in the departmental guidelines and discuss in general what are the expectations that we look for in a junior faculty. First 6 months, by the time the faculty has established themselves in the organization, so the evaluation will be what have you done in the first 6 months to, to progress your academic career. Have you established a laboratory? Have you recruited graduate students or made efforts to recruit graduate students? Have you written any proposals, or you are in the process of writing proposals? Have you made any kind of collaborative efforts to get involved in interdisciplinary research efforts on campus or outside the campus? And so as we move along, 30 days, 90 days are really relatively short period of time for the P&T process. Like we said, we have annual review. So the first year review is the first, and we all consider this is very easy review because this is only 1 year and the individual may not have done much. But as we progress with second year or third year, in our case, is the major review. So that's when you find out whether or not things are going well for you. But I would say 30 days is too short.
Yeah, I agree that I guess like initial period would be mostly to become familiar with the, folks in the department, staff members, and how the department operates, and your assigned duties and things like that. Find your office, lab, and whatever that you would need to be successful. And then after that, as we Dr. Islam mentioned, and we agree that the academic timeline is actually quite relaxed, but that doesn't mean that we will not be judged. We will be judged at the end of the day, but it's just the pace is, you have the time to breathe and produce. It's not like industry that you have, uh, like milestones and there is somebody to watch. I think the bad part is this: when we had our orientation, when I joined, uh, the provost that time gave us an orientation in South Carolina. And he mentioned, I can't remember it, the exact sentence, but I think what he said is the freedom that you get as an academic. And for me, it was quite obvious because I was in industry, driven by deadlines, milestones, and deliverables and things like that. Then all on a sudden, I come to academia. And he mentioned that the freedom, because you definitely don't have a manager to report on a daily basis, the freedom could be intoxicating. And, you could, if you're not really mindful about your time and focus on the main things like writing, generating results, getting students, supervising them, teaching well, writing good papers, and writing proposals, then, yeah, so in order to have that freedom for a lasting period, I guess that's the topic of the discussion today anyway. You just need to be producing and working really hard from the beginning. That's the message. So the freedom is not without a price. The price is that you really have to work hard.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ali, and thank you, Professor Islam.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, so the next question, please.
I can see two of my former students are here. So I don't know whether they have any question for me.
So if, okay, there is someone.
Yes.
Okay.
It's Ifana.
I'm going to. Okay, so yeah, your mic and camera both are now accessible.
Assalamualaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for arranging this talk. And I just want to give a shout out to my advisor, Dr. Islam. He has been not only a great mentor when I was a PhD student, but also after I got my tenure track position. So he has been a great strength, and thankfully for him, I have been able to get tenure hopefully from September 1st.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Ifana.
Oh, thank you so much. I just want to highlight one thing that I didn't think about from the beginning, but maybe you guys who are starting can think about, is that who is going to write the letter for you. So it's very important because you will be given the opportunity to select 10 to 12 people as a potential referees who are at the arm's length, but who did not collaborate with you. So, I mean, and those letters, as far as I have seen from my experience, people read line by line. And if there is any like slightly negative connotation there, it it can break the deal. So it's very important to have someone whom you can trust, who would write an honest, obviously, and good review for you. And building the relationship from the very beginning would be useful. Sorry about the background noise.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with Ifana that the letters are very important, and getting the right people writing the letters, because oftentimes we ask for, as a chair, I get the input from the faculty and also from the PNT committee. In our institution, half the letter is, half the names come from the faculty, half from the PNT committee. So I contact all 12. And out of them, maybe 7 or 8 will say, oh, we're going to write the letter. And then when time comes, they have not. So we have to have 6 letters at least in the dossier. So it's very important to have the right people, contact. You cannot really contact them, but you have to know them, or you have to provide the names of the people who have the history of writing the letter. There are some people who are very nice, very good, very famous, but they will not write the letter on time, or they will never write the letter. They will say, I'm writing the letter, but the letter will never show up. So it's very important to have those, the external evaluators for this package tenure dossier. And you can seek help from people like if you have a mentor, mentor can help in this process. Well, my case, I knew a very famous guy, which Dr. Ali knows very well. He agreed, but then he never turned in the letter because he is so busy. So fortunately, I had enough people agreed to write the letter, so it worked out fine.
No, I agree. That's a really good point about knowing people. So that's where perhaps going to conferences is helpful. Introducing yourself and giving a presentation, perhaps also taking your students if your funding allows, and having a poster standing next to the poster for a while when people shows up. These types of things, anything you could do to increase your visibility is helpful. And also we need to be mindful having a good web page is also helpful. Like when your chair or the PN teacher invites a referee to write a letter for you, the first thing they'll do is quickly they'll go to the web page and see if they really want to write a letter for you or not. So, sometimes if a web page has outdated publication, etc., that is not helpful. So I think we need to be mindful about those things.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question from Rabiul Islam. So he wrote it. So he said, I'm not a faculty member, but planning to apply for a faculty position. I just want to ask a question that may not be related to this session exactly. And how many publications do you think is enough to get a faculty position at R2 University? Whether one high impact factor journal and 3 to 4 average impact factor journal are enough or need much more? I know it may vary, but ask for some suggestions.
If I may, this really depends on the field of study. So if you are applying for a faculty position and they are looking for faculty position in your area of expertise, that's one thing. But you may be applying for a faculty position where the area of expertise is not exactly matching yours. Then publications may not be that helpful. So it all depends on the R2 institution where you're applying, what area of expertise they're looking for. I know, for example, in computer engineering, there is a tremendous demand for faculty. And so I have seen people with very few publications getting these faculty jobs. But this may not be true in every other disciplines within our profession in a STEM field.
Yeah, I think that's a hard one to really answer. I think because it's going to be dependent on the case, as Professor Islam mentioned. And it really is a matter of a good match. So, if the committee looks at the applications and they see that this individual fits the area, because most of the time the departments or colleges are hiring in specific areas. They are trying to build competencies in those areas. So somebody might have a lot of patents, for example, and may not necessarily be a lot of papers, or they may have a great connection with industry or a national lab or something. So it really depends on like a composite strength of that individual, and then they can come up with a decision from that. Basically, they're making an investment decision, and they will see whether this person will likely be successful. Nobody can guarantee, but that's what they're trying to do.
So one example that I was on a search committee, and there was an applicant with 20 some journal articles, but the topic of their part, the research was highly theoretical, and we were not looking for the theoretical faculty. We're looking for someone who can do experiment. So even though this individual has an extremely good record, but unfortunately did not match what we were looking for. So some people argued that someone with 22 journal papers as a grad student must be great. But then how does this individual fit into our department? Because we were looking specifically for that particular field where this person has not done any research. So that's my answer. So it depends really on what your background is, and you mentioned a few publications. It may be, but we don't know until you tell me what exactly the area of this university is looking for.
Thank you. Next question, please. Let me see, there is a Q&A. Okay, we answered that question.
There is from Mobashir Hussain Shandi.
Yes.
I have a separate question. That is particularly when you are reviewing tenure package, how important or how you view how the individual is showing independence from their past supervisors, like PhD supervisors and postdoc supervisors, and what will be your suggestion for young faculties in that regard?
So may I start again? We have Ifana. She was my PhD student, but she separated completely. She moved in a field that was not something that I was doing by researching. So she successfully moved to a completely different field and was very successful. So this is important for us to know that the individual who has applied for tenure, how much work they have done in their previous institution. They may come here and then do some paper publication with the previous group, but we expect them to build their own research program with their own students in their own institution. So we like to see some results from there. So while in the first few years, this person may be publishing paper with their previous group, but once they are here and they have established their own research group, we like to see publications coming out from their group, which they established with their PhD students. So, they can build new relationship with people in this current institution, maybe, collaboration efforts with other faculty. But those are all done in our institution. So that's what we look for. The carryover from the previous advisors' work is not good after a couple of years, maybe. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, I concur. I think the fact is decoupling with the former PhD advisor. I mean, it doesn't have to be done on day one, but eventually it has to be done. And however, that doesn't mean that the young faculty member is not to collaborate with other senior professors in the department or the college or other institutions. That's perfectly fine. So the zeal to just becoming independent very quickly doesn't mean just become independent and don't collaborate with others. It just decouple from the former advisor is more important. And I think like true independence, meaning maturity and that type of independence is, at least at USC, it's expected at the full professor rank, not at the assistant to associate professor rank.
So just to let you know, I still work with my previous PhD advisor, but over a period of time, our collaboration kind of died, but we rejuvenated in the last few years. So it can always come back after you get tenure.
Okay, thank you. So Bahauddin, you have the mic and the camera.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. I'm Said Bahauddin. So the question I have is actually like in the research part, so how the publications and the grants, like how they are being actually weighted, like which one gets the higher weight? Because in my yearly evaluation, actually, like sometimes, okay, the publications are good, but the grant was actually not sometimes very satisfactory. In some year, grant has been, I think, great, but publications has been not to the expected level. So when the final package is gone for the department and the PNT committee and all, so how these things are actually being looked at?
Yeah, we take a holistic approach when we evaluate a dossier. So after 5-6 years, when you submit your dossier, you will have all the publication, all of your funding history. So it is much more easier for us to evaluate the entire package. But now year to year, we may have situation like you just described. Someone may have publication that year, probably did not have enough funding. But then when the funding came, maybe they're too busy working on their projects and not yet ready to publish the papers. Because it takes time. Once you get the new results, then you have to write papers. And so that can go ebb and flow, the publication. Similarly, the funding can also fluctuate. But at the end of that day, when we have those 6 years or 5 years, depending on what your tenure clock is, the entire package, we take a holistic approach in evaluating the complete dossier. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. You have a follow-up question?
And how the teaching is actually being is it, because like I heard actually like a mixed reaction about the teaching, like some senior professors in my department, they said that, okay, don't invest too much time on preparing course materials. And some of the senior professors said that no, actually, like you should really invest time in teaching, so that, okay, you get this point out of 5 and others. So in the tenure committee, even actually if the committee look at holistically the teaching aspect, like what's the weightage? I know that's a pretty broad question, but I thought.
May I continue? Then I will just hand over Dr. Ali. One of the things about teaching is that there are evaluation by the students, and we also have peer evaluation of teaching. We have a very organized peer evaluation process. So in the tenure package, the teaching is evaluated not only by the courses you teach, also by your students' response to your courses, as well as the peer evaluation. And so some faculty member may consider teaching as a very important, and others may not do so. So this varies. Some people are very teaching focused, and they would like to have junior faculty more involved in teaching. But that doesn't mean that this person will be doing poorly in teaching. So the teaching has to be taken seriously enough. But like we mentioned that the priority is always the research, and then comes the teaching, and then service. So that's the typical priority. But it doesn't mean that you have to do a very poor job teaching. Your teaching evaluation number should look good and decent. So out of 5, most universities are graded out of 5. We said anybody between 2 and 3 is considered an okay teacher or decent teacher. But you have to have certain decent number for teaching evaluation from the students. But the peer evaluation is very important for us. And that's where you actually get good feedback from the faculty regarding your teaching performance.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I think the teaching, I wouldn't undermine it. I mean, you would hear from people that, oh, don't invest too much time on teaching. But actually, as Dr. Islam mentioned, your teaching would be evaluated by the tenure promotion committee, and some members would evaluate it with a greater weight than others. And the peer evaluators would not only sit in your class, they will evaluate your materials, including, depending on the school again, at least at USC, they look at the exams, the materials, and everything in Blackboard, and then write a comprehensive report. Students' comments, if people parse through this, normally they do not, but so I would invest, I wouldn't say a lot of time, but quality time in developing your materials and doing high quality teaching, basically. And in terms of research, I think it was mentioned like how it is evaluated. Yeah, your entire dossier is looked at as a whole, but I think it probably would look better, especially when your file is going to have some active grants and have some students, if it's a PhD granting institution, to have some PhD students there actively working. I know it sounds, it may sound trivial, but people might judge based on that, sustainability and things like that. So it would be good to have something going. If there were students and grants before, but all on a sudden there was a discontinuity, there might be some concern. So something need to be thought in that order. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so we are 9:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I just wanted to thank both of our panelists, Professor Islam and Professor Ali, for making time. I know that we have exchanged a lot of emails to basically get the time and everything's done. So thank you so much. I would like to also thank the audience for kindly joining us and ask the insightful questions. Having said that, also Professor Akbar, that you chimed in time to time. So that your insightful comments, they were also complimentary, so they were very helpful. So I'm looking forward to actually our next panel session next month. But meanwhile, we will be in touch. And if there is anything that we can do, please reach out. And thank you so much. And everyone, have a great week from tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I would like to say to everyone who attended, you can reach out to me if you have any questions, further questions. I'm at University of Missouri, and I think you may have seen my email there. So reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you with any questions you have in the future.
Same here, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Hussain, for organizing.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
Okay.